Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writing Quest. My name is Brendan Pugh, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about what it takes to write a great opening hook for your story, how to do it, what it is, what it means, and 5 tips to make it happen. Huzzah! Okay, so the opening hook of your story, what is it? The opening hook is the part of the story where you have to hook the reader in. You have to get them for the rest of the book. So you have this one chance, this one shot to present something that's so interesting that they cannot put it down. That's the whole point of the opening hook, is to get that reader to be adamant about reading your book and turn it into a page turner. So we're going to talk about 5 tips to make that happen. Here we go. Number 1, this is the golden rule of the opening hook. It's the golden rule really for your whole story, but especially for the opening hook. It is to present the main character's internal conflict. The internal conflict is basically what drives the entire story. It's what gives meaning to everything that happens. Otherwise, you just have this plot-driven story that basically everything just is like, and it follows flat. It falls short. You don't get as interested. Now, if you base the whole story in the character's internal conflict, that makes everything that happened actually matter to the character and therefore matter to you. If it doesn't matter to the character, it doesn't matter to you. So that's tip number 1, is you have got to root the opening hook. You have to present their internal conflict in a way that is compelling, that makes the reader feel emotionally connected to the characters, and then also kind of give them the beginnings of the journey that they need to go on. Number 2, foreshadowing. Plenty of foreshadowing. This is the place where you throw in all this stuff that foreshadows what's going to happen throughout the rest of the book or even the series. This is something that I'm learning a lot about right now as I'm reading through Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, finished by Sanderson, of course. And in reading through it, there's all of these things that when you read it for the first time, you just think it doesn't matter. It's not very consequential, but it eventually becomes something that actually matters a lot. So the best way I think to do this, based on some of the research I've been doing, is that if you can do it in a way where the reader doesn't actually know it's foreshadowing, but then it pays off later in the book, it adds a little bit to the hook, because it adds this, what's going on, a little bit of mystery, but it also doesn't give everything away. And then it pays off really well as you get further on through your story. Number 3, present danger, but give the illusion of control. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have to present some looming threat. There's some sort of looming issue. It's not really the bad guy. You're not revealing the bad guy at this point, but you are, your protagonist has to be in some kind of danger, or the stakes have to be there a little bit, but it has to be in a way that seems like it's all under control before it all breaks loose. And so that's kind of where I'm in my own stories, where I'm starting with, my person is a warrior. They seem like they have everything under control. There's dangers to be concerned with, but ultimately they feel like they've got it handled, and then it just all goes to crap. Number 4, you want to show your character relations both good and bad. This is really important later on as you continue to weave the character relations between friends and family and enemies and allies. And basically, you have to kind of set the tone for now. So you have to specifically build any relationships with mentors or family or people that they're supposed to be close to, that you may kind of destroy that relationship later. Or if you need to build relationships with enemies and people that your character may not like, that you eventually maybe turn into something else. The opening hook is a great way to kind of throw in some characters and some relations, but you don't really know where the main character necessarily stands with everybody. And so that you can eventually play with those, but it's interesting enough in the beginning that your reader may latch on to a couple of these relationships that the main character has, that they will be interested enough to keep reading on to figure out what happens with those relationships between all those characters in the end. And tip number 5 is foreshadow backstory through dialogue, but avoid exposition. So this is the trickiest part, especially when you're writing fantasy. You find a lot, Tolkien was known for his huge descriptions of all these epic landscapes, all this stuff. And because of that, sometimes it's kind of hard to actually get into his book. I love Tolkien. I love The Lord of the Rings, everything he's written. But from a page turner perspective, sometimes it is a little slow and the exposition is too much. So you still have to reveal some backstory, because in revealing that backstory and foreshadowing it, you set up a bunch of things for the future. You just can't do it all with exposition. It has to be done with the dialogue between characters. It has to be done through other means so that it's presented interesting. It's presented in a way that your reader wants to keep exploring, but it's not done in a boring exposition way where you're just kind of info dumping on them. There are times where you need to do info dumps. It just is part of the gig. But for the most part, if you can avoid the as many as possible, that's going to offer you the best opening hook and really get your readers interested in what the rest of the book is about. That's it for my 5 tips on how to write a great opening hook. I hope you learned something and enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment for sure so we can keep this discussion going. If you have any other tips on how to write an opening hook for a novel or a script or anything else you're writing, put it down below. Let's talk about it. This has been Writing Quest. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Huzzah!